Some moments in life leave an imprint so deep, it's like your memory carved them in stone. And when it comes to first experiences, especially the intimate kind, they tend to stay with you forever, for better or worse. For me, that first time didn't follow any rule book. It was unexpected, unusual, and definitely unforgettable. I was still in high school back then, shy, introverted, and just trying to navigate the maze of teenage life without making a fool of myself. My family had just moved to a new neighborhood, and everything felt foreign. My mom, being the social butterfly she is, quickly made friends with the woman living in the next building over, Miss Irene. She lived just 3 minutes away, and the two of them hit it off instantly. They shared everything: stories, opinions, laughter, complaints. I never sat in on their conversations, but they didn't exactly keep their voices down, so I picked up a lot just by being in the next room. That's how I first learned about Miss Irene's life: divorced, no kids, and absolutely done with marriage. She had this sharp, witty way of describing her past relationships, making them sound both ridiculous and tragic. To be honest, I didn't pay much attention. It was just background noise to me. At the time, she was just one of those grown-up women, elegant but distant, someone from a different world. Little did I know, that very same woman would soon play a role in one of the most defining moments of my young adult life. Something that would shift the way I saw myself forever. Looking back now, I can still remember that feeling, the mixture of confusion, excitement, and something else I couldn't quite name. That day marked the beginning of something I never saw coming. Miss Irene wasn't like most women I knew, not like my mom, not like my teachers, not like anyone in my life. She had this rare kind of presence, confident, effortless, magnetic. From the bits and pieces I overheard during her frequent visits to our house, it became clear that she had lived a full, complicated life. In her mid-30s, divorced and proudly independent, Miss Irene had sworn off marriage for good. "Marriage is more work than owning a dog," she once joked to my mom, her voice echoing from the kitchen. "Except at least a dog doesn't expect dumplings and beer money." I'd stifle a laugh from my room, pretending not to listen, but I was always drawn in. She talked about her ex-husband like he was a tired character in a sitcom, lazy, entitled, always expecting more than he gave. "Once they know you're not going anywhere," she said, "it's like you're their maid with benefits." My mom would try to play devil's advocate, suggesting maybe she'd just been unlucky in love. But Miss Irene wouldn't budge. She liked her freedom too much. And she wasn't lonely, not really. From what I gathered, she still dated, but strictly on her terms. No commitments, no expectations. And her taste? Well, let's just say she had a thing for younger men. I heard names, ages, the occasional giggle over how shocked people were when she mentioned her latest fling. "He's 24, she'd say casually, or this new one? Just turned 22. I couldn't help but be curious. What was it about her, this woman pushing 35, that drew guys barely older than me? She wasn't just physically attractive, though she absolutely was, with her flawless skin, long dark hair, and a figure that she knew exactly how to dress, but she carried herself like someone who didn't need validation. That kind of confidence is rare. She pampered herself, dressed well, treated life like something meant to be enjoyed, not endured. Still, I never thought I'd be part of her world. To me, Miss Irene existed on the other side of some invisible line, an elegant, untouchable figure in my periphery. A woman with her own rules, her own rhythm, and a history far more interesting than most people care to admit. But I was about to learn just how easily those lines could blur. Looking back, it's strange to think how close Miss Irene actually was to my everyday life, just one building over, 3 minutes away, but at the time, she felt like a distant character in a story I was only half listening to. I never imagined she'd ever really notice me. I was just the shy kid in high school with average looks, no real experience with girls, and a habit of disappearing into the background. I didn't play sports, wasn't especially smart or charming, just quietly trying to survive the teenage years without embarrassing myself. Still, I couldn't help but overhear things, conversations between her and my mom drifting through the walls, fragments of stories about her latest dates, Her unapologetic opinions on men, love, and why she'd never fall for the same tricks again. She wasn't bitter, more like playfully jaded, the way someone gets after seeing too much and learning to laugh through it. And in those moments, even without ever talking directly to me, Miss Irene started to occupy a strange space in my mind. The age gap between her and her boyfriends always intrigued me. I remember hearing her casually mention someone who was 28. Then a week later, 24. And once, with a grin in her voice, she whispered something about a 22-year-old. I couldn't help but do the math. That guy was only a few years older than me. But even with all the curiosity and quiet observation, I never imagined I'd somehow end up in the same storyline. At 18, I didn't think of myself as someone interesting or confident enough to attract a woman like her. I was just a kid in her orbit, a shadow passing through her hallway from time to time. So when I overheard her tell my mom, "Your son's turning 18 soon, huh? He's practically a man now," it barely registered. It sounded like a passing comment, nothing more. I didn't realize, not then, that the line between observation and involvement was already beginning to fade. What seemed like a world I was only watching from afar would soon become something much more intimate, much more real. And it all began with a flat tire and a phone call I wasn't expecting. It all began on an ordinary afternoon. The kind of day where nothing seems special, until everything changes. My mom had just finished folding laundry when her phone rang. I heard her say, "Oh no, really? That sucks," followed by, "Sure, I'll send him over." A moment later, she turned to me and said, "Miss Irene's got a flat tire. Can you go help her out?" "Of course," I replied, trying to act cool even though my heart ticked a little faster than usual. I grabbed the pump, some tools, and made my way to the next building. There she was, Miss Irene, sitting casually on a bench near her car, wearing a light dress that fluttered slightly in the breeze. She smiled the moment she saw me, like I was exactly who she'd been waiting for. "You're a lifesaver," she said, walking over as I crouched down beside the wheel. "I haven't even done anything yet," I muttered, trying not to sound awkward. But she wasn't just thanking me for the tire. She was setting the tone. From the moment I arrived, she started talking, softly, naturally. She had this way of making even small talk feel like a secret being shared. Soon, she steered the conversation toward more personal topics. "You're 18 now, right?" "Yeah," I replied, focusing on loosening the lug nuts. "You dating anyone?" she asked, her tone light but curious. "Nope." "Never had a girlfriend?" "Not really," I said, embarrassed. She didn't laugh or tease, just nodded like she was taking mental notes. "Well," she smiled, "you're almost done here. We should celebrate once you're finished. Just something small." I figured she meant a quick coffee or a thank you snack. But instead, she led me inside, poured brandy into fine glasses, laid out cheese and plates like it was a quiet evening for two. I'd never drunk anything stronger than soda, but the brandy was smooth and warm, and after the second glass, my nerves began to dissolve. That was the moment the air shifted. Somewhere between tire grease and alcohol, I stopped being the shy neighborhood boy and started becoming something else entirely, someone she was watching now, not just talking to. At first, I didn't see it coming. I was too distracted, by the warmth of the brandy, by the way Miss Irene talked with such ease, and by the surrealness of simply being in her space. Everything in her apartment felt intentional, comfortable, even seductive in its simplicity. The soft lighting, the clean counters, the faint scent of jasmine and something deeper, more mature. She poured my second glass before I had finished the first, brushing off my weak attempt to decline. "Relax," she said, "you're helping me celebrate, remember?" We kept talking. About school, music, books I liked but never told anyone about. She listened, genuinely, occasionally teasing in ways that felt warm, not mocking. Then, gradually, the conversation shifted. Her words became more playful, her questions more pointed. "So, never had a girlfriend? Never kissed someone?" I laughed nervously, staring at the brandy in my glass. "Not really. I mean, no. Not like that." She leaned in, her voice smooth. "You know, you're not a boy anymore. You're 18. You'll meet someone, maybe soon. And when that happens, do you want to be completely lost? I blinked, unsure how to respond. But she wasn't pressing, just gently guiding. It's sweet to be new at things. But if both of you are clueless, it can be awkward. Sometimes, she added, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass, it helps to learn with someone who knows the rhythm. I felt a quiet shift in my chest, somewhere between adrenaline and curiosity. I didn't say anything profound. I just nodded. I texted my mom quickly, saying I'd finished with the tire and was going to hang with some friends. Just so she wouldn't worry or, worse, call. What happened after that wasn't sudden, it was deliberate. Gentle. Guided. She led, I followed. And I remember every moment because it didn't feel transactional. It felt like a gift. That night, Miss Irene opened a door I didn't even know was there. I walked through it not with bravado, but with trust. With awe. And yes, maybe a little fear. But mostly, I felt something I'd never felt before, chosen. Not as a boy, but as a man she had decided to teach. We met a few more times after that first night. Never frequently, never planned, it just happened when it felt right. Each time, it was different. Not just physically, but emotionally. Miss Irene never treated it like something casual, even if she masked it beneath humor and nonchalance. She was patient, attentive, always teaching, about touch, about pacing, about reading someone's reactions. But more than anything, she taught me confidence. Not arrogance, but a quiet understanding of my own worth. After our fourth or fifth time together, she kissed me, soft, almost like an apology, and said, I think it's time for you to find someone your own age. There wasn't sadness in her voice. More like a gentle boundary being drawn. You're going to be fine, she added, running her hand briefly through my hair. Better than fine, actually. You just needed a little push. I didn't argue. Deep down, I sensed this moment would come. Maybe she feared I'd start feeling too much. Or maybe she realized she already had. Either way, she ended it before anything grew complicated. And for that, oddly, I respected her even more. Things got awkward after that. Seeing her at our house when she came to chat with my mom suddenly felt too surreal. I avoided eye contact. She kept her cool, never letting on. Eventually, the visits grew fewer, then stopped entirely. She moved away not long after. My mom mentioned it in passing, surprised but not suspicious. They gradually lost touch, and life moved on. But for me, she never truly disappeared. I still think about her sometimes. Not in a romantic way, but with a strange mix of nostalgia and gratitude. She never used me. She gave me something, a private rite of passage that reshaped the way I carried myself in future relationships. To this day, no one knows. No one ever will. But I remember. I remember the scent of her perfume, the warmth of her apartment, the exact sound of her laugh when I stumbled over a joke. Miss Irene was a chapter in my life that no one else read, but it shaped the man I quietly became. Some lessons in life don't come from books or classrooms. They come from unexpected encounters that shape us from the inside out. This story, though intimate and unconventional, carries a message that resonates beyond the surface. Growth often begins at the edge of our comfort zone. Sometimes, it takes one person, someone who sees beyond our awkwardness, our insecurities, to help us discover parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. But there's another side to it too. Not every meaningful connection is meant to last. Some people enter our lives briefly, not to stay, but to awaken something, a shift in how we see ourselves, a new layer of confidence, or even just a clearer sense of direction. Whether it's a first love, a mentor, or an unlikely friend, these moments, if we're open, can leave lasting imprints. The key is knowing how to carry the lesson forward without clinging to the past. In life, not every chapter is meant to be shared aloud. Some remain private, powerful, and quietly transformative. And that's okay. Because growth isn't always loud, it's often found in the quiet turning of a page.